Hello and welcome to another SkaredCast battle report. Today at the Eternal Warriors Clubhouse here at Sir Games a Lot in Barry, we have an open war mission where the Necrons, the ancient foe, will face off against Skari himself and his real space raid. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to the open war mission. So before we go into the armies, this is the mission. Deployment, standard Dawn of War style. We have Acid Rain's the twist, which will subtract 1 from all to hit rolls, all advance and charge rolls that we do until the rain goes away, but it could come back. And our mission, Invasion. It's Emperor's Will, so 2 objectives, 1 in each deployment zone, but if you control both of them at the end of any turn of your opponent's turn, then you win automatically. So I have put this objective marker in a corner. This is my deployment zone, and my opponent has put it by this generator back here in his deployment zone. So let's look at the armies, and the Necrons will begin deploying first. Okay, so 1,500 points of Drukhari. So leading the force, we have Archon Skari, as always, with his trusted snake slith. Then we have a unit of witches in a raider, a Ravager in the backfield, 3 Reaver jet bikes with a blaster. We've got Chimera, a Beastmaster, and a Clawed Fiend. Drazar, the Master of Blades, with 5 of his trusted incubi in another raider. 10 Hellions, a Void Raven Bomber with D-sides, and 5 Mandrakes. And that is 1,500 points divided into a Outrider detachment and a Vanguard detachment as well. Let's look at the Necrons. Okay, 1,500 points of Tomb Legion. Wow, here we go, the rank after rank of Necron warriors. So, take it away. What do we have in this 1,500 point army?
So today we'll be playing with 80 Necron warriors, led by our Overlord, with a Warlord who's going to keep them all nice and fresh, Illuminor Caesaris.
He buffs them, right?
He keeps them buffed, he keeps them alive. It's pretty gross.
Pretty handy.
And then backing us up, we have our Nightbringer with his backup of Scarabs.
There you go. So there you have it. 1,500 points of Necrons. Comment down below. Let us think who will win, the relentless horde of the mechanical armies, or the Drukhari with their swiftiness. And after deployment, we return to see both armies arrayed for battle. So I've gone very light on this flank. We have the Reaver jet bikes, the Clawed Fiend with the Beastmaster near my objective. In the center, we've got the Hellions with +1 toughness and the Chimera. And on this flank, we have a very mobile strike force with the Void Raven Bomber, the Incubi and Drazar in that raider, and the Witches, the Slith and Archon Skari himself in that raider, while this Ravager holds up the flank. The Necron Legion has deployed in force on this flank with 40 Necron warriors holding up the advancing Dark Eldar. We've got buffer character here. We've got the Overlord here and 2 more blocks of warriors moving towards the objective, while the Nightbringer and his Scarabs are going to threaten the flank and move up as quickly as possible. All in all, the armies are arrayed for battle. Necron turn 1 saw the Necron Phalanx advanced inexorably against the Dark Eldar line. The Super Cryptek shot a Super Lance at my Incubi Raider, putting 2 wounds on it because he had to burn a command point to re-roll the hits. And the front block of 20 warriors has been upgraded with +1 strength. On the far flank, the Nightbringer has leashed out with a meteor and done 1 mortal wound on the Reaver jet bikes. So now we're moving on to the Dark Eldar first turn. Not much happened as the Necrons are short range, but they will close that distance quickly with the 5 turns that we have for the end of the game.
You shall not fail.
Yeah, you shall not fail any morale. So, on to Dark Eldar Drukhari, turn 1. We had the fleet of raiders move up, as well as the Hellions advance. It is acid rainy, so it was -1 to hit, which was kind of cool. The bomb from the Void Raven did 9 wounds on the big unit of warriors at the back. There are only 5 left. And in the rest of shooting, I did kill a few, but I didn't kill all of them. And I tried to charge with all 3, 2 raiders and a ravager. They needed 11s to get in to combat, and all 3 of them failed the charge. Now, we have a twist, or ruse, sorry. He had lower power level than me, so his ruse was that he had an inspiring speech before the battle, and he does not have to take any battle shock tests while the Warlord is alive, I'm pretty sure. So, that means that the Necron warriors, even though they've lost 15 of their number, are completely fine. I did move my puppies off this side to kind of soak up some of the meteoric strikes from the Nightbringer, and my mandrakes are still in the shadows. But I have controlled the objective with the Void Raven Bomber, which means he has to move at least 2 models next to that objective to stop me from capturing it again. Okay, moving on to turn 2. The Necron Phalanx has successfully completed their second turn. So, these 2 Phalanxes, this one regained 9 models, and then they shot into my Void Raven Bomber. That one had My Will Be Done, so +1 to hit, and Caesarea, sorry, I'll try and get the actual, the Illuminor, is that him?
Illuminor,
yeah,
Caesarius.
Yeah, I'll just call him Illuminor. He gave them +1 ballistic skill, and then the rain stopped. So because the rain stopped, 72 shots later, and my Void Raven exploded, killing 3 from each unit, which is kind of cool. And then, thanks to this wall here, I really negated a lot of the firepower from this unit. The Nightbringer and his Scarabs are trying to push into the middle as I push hard with my flank, and this entire block put 1 wound onto that raider and killed like 5 of my Hellions. But there are 2 left alive, and I did burn 2 command points to keep them in the fight. So we're moving on to turn 2 for the Dark Eldar. Things are getting intense. Let's see what happens with the Archon and his witches, the Incubi and Drazar, the Hellions and the Beast Packs and Reavers in the backfield, and the Mandrakes sitting in the shadows waiting for the opportune time to strike. Hello, and turn 2. So, I charged in with pretty much my whole army to tie up as much of the Necron army as I physically could. The beasts sallied forth, killed all the Scarabs, and have tied up the Nightbringer with the Chimera. These Reaver jet bikes advanced off to the flank, and these raiders. So I have a raider and a witch holding that big unit up. This unit is completely free. And then I've got witches, the Incubi, all these guys holding in combat and pulling the warriors in with the length of the raiders. So, I've tied up 3 of the Necron warrior squads. I've surrounded this squad so the guys don't come back. And this one here has the special 4+ reanimations. So we're moving on to the Necron third turn. Things are getting bloody, but in combat, the Gauss weaponry will be unable to do its work. Let's see what happens as the Nightbringer will sally forth and turn the tide of battle. The God of Death comes back. Necron turn 3. So the witches successfully held this big unit of Necron warriors in combat, forcing this big blob of warriors to move up, and they fired into the Chimera, murdering them all, while the Necron Satan fell back and killed one of the bikers with his gaze of death. A whole bunch of these warriors came back thanks to the 4+ reanimation, and they shot into nobody because they fell back. And then the Lance did 1 wound on that Ravager. So the Incubi did murder this last unit of warriors in combat, freeing them up and essentially freeing this whole flank up. to go and try and hunt the enemy warlord who has a Necron, Dark Eldar head in his hands. We want revenge! So we're moving on to Dark Eldar. Turn 3. End of turn 3 for the Dark Eldar. The Mandrakes finally arrived and did 5 wounds on the Nightbringer with their mortal wounds. I did tie up this unit of Necron warriors with that Raider, and I lost my Beastmaster and my Clawed Fiend, while these jet bikes tried to charge in, but they failed their charge. And on this flank, the Witches and the Raider did shoot and kill, shoot with pistols and in combat, down to 13 models in that unit, while my Ravager, the Incubi, Drazar, and they murdered the other unit of Necron warriors, while the Warlord has taken a wound. So, we're moving on to Necron turn 4. I have captured that objective, so he has to get on it to stop me from taking it. And I still have this objective, and we will move on to the next turn. It's tight. It's an invasion. Let's see what happens. Okay, Necron, turn 4. So the Warlord is finally dead as the Incubi and Drazar cut him down. But in combat, he did kill one of the Raiders with his War Scythe. The other Raider has 4 wounds left, while the Witches got murdered by a bunch of warriors in their fleet. Then we had the Satan move up and get into capture the objective to not have the game go on. But I do have my Mandrakes and a Reaver jet bike ready to come and try and take it away from him, because he only has 3 wounds left. So moving on to the Dark Eldar turn, let's see what happens. Dark Eldar turn 4. So the advancing blaster took the last 3 wounds off the Necron Satan, while the Mandrakes were there to put some more Bale blasts into him if he would have survived. That solidifies my control of my objective for the invasion. I did fall back with this Raider from the combat over here with the warriors, and then the Incubi, Drazar, my Archon, my Slith, and my Ravager charged in. The Ravager soaked up all the Overwatch, and I murdered all of the Necron warriors now that they are not immune to morale, since the Warlord is dead. My Hellions stayed back to control that objective, and my Witches are here, and there's 2 of them left alive against all these warriors, while this Overlord is here as well. So, with that in mind, the Necrons will phase out and go back to the Tomb World, and it is victory for the Drukhari. But let me know what you think down below. It was a really cool amount of Necrons, can be very overwhelming. Make sure to stay tuned for the Tactical Corner on Thursday, where we break down the different tactical nuances of how I was able to spread the army apart and take it apart piece by piece, as well as what you think you would have done as the Necron army against the fast Dark Eldar. So, any last comments for the end of the game?
Good game. I will be taking more close combat support next time.
Very cool. You have like 30 scarabs at your disposal, don't you? Oh, next time, tune in as the Necron dynasty decides to go after Archon Skari when their blood boils and, well, you know, regular Necron stuff. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and make sure you stay tuned to the channel. Become a patron if you'd like to support the content I create, and check the links down below for all the other cool stuff we do. After all, this is Skari, your grateful host, signing off. Till next time, Skari out.